Welcome everyone today to this episode of Supply Chainiacs with Koepke and Chris Kobus from FourKites. We're excited to talk about a topic that is a key focus for a number of companies in transportation and supply chain, which is customer service. Many years ago, customer service was a cost of doing business. In today's world, customer service is a competitive differentiation for many companies in supply chain. So welcome, Chris. Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what are the challenges and why do people even care about customer service today within supply chain?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Really looking forward to joining this and then participating. I think when you think about the challenges as it relates to kind of driving customer service improvements with the real-time visibility platform, you first have to kind of look at what's the problem, right? And then really, even before that, what's the condition of the marketplace? What's the demand of the marketplace? And I think if you look at that piece, right, in terms of what's happening in the marketplace, is we're living in an environment where every customer has the "I want it now," perception, right? We're living in a time where Amazon Prime is everywhere, right? SLAs are becoming very tight. Expectations are at the highest from the customer side, right? And the challenge as it relates to how organizations and enterprises and supply chains are responding to that is if you look at technology investment over the past 10 plus years in the supply chain space, it has primarily been around planning and transactional software, right? Technology that is built to execute against a plan, right? Which is great, but the challenge is, as we all know, is you're always going to have variability, right? You're always going to have exceptions to the plan, whether that comes in the form of demand variability, where you think the customer is going to buy 10, but now they want 12, or supply variability, where you think you're going to build 10, but you actually built 8, right? And the challenge is the processes associated with managing those exceptions are all very manual, right? They're all built on manual processes around sifting through spreadsheets and doing Excel wizardry and being on the phone with carriers and customers and trying to respond fast, not necessarily being proactive, right? So I think that's ultimately a little bit about the challenge. But Glenn, what have you seen, right? What have you seen in the marketplace in terms of the value prop of a real-time visibility platform as it relates to holistically, but also to customer service?
Absolutely. So I think the real-time visibility market is still new, right, in the grand scheme of things compared to other software providers in supply chain. And so when you look at this market, it really started to evolve about 5 or 6 years ago. And so some of the early adopters of our customer base, their centerpiece of why they partnered with FourKites was around customer service and making sure that they could tell their end customer where that truck was. Right? There was often the question that if you have a critical product or a critical promotion, your end customer wants to know, is it going to arrive on time? And the issue is that the telephone game happened, right? So the end customer calls the vendor and they say, all right, where's my truck? And the answer is, well, let me find out, right? So I go call 5 different people, and maybe within a few hours I can figure out and say, okay, hey customer, actually the truck's going to be on time, so it's okay. And so I just wasted 30 minutes of labor. And so that information is really critical. And so from a value prop standpoint, I think there's 3 main areas that I see from a shipper and LSP standpoint, LSP being a logistics service provider, which comprises of brokers, 3PLs, carriers that leverage our platform, is really around efficiency, collaboration, and then just agility, right? Those are kind of the centerpieces of why platforms help customer service. So the first one with efficiency is just simply, how do I reduce my labor, right? So if I can take the same FTE and reduce phone calls by 50% and take those 4 equivalent hours per day and have them focus on analytics, product promotions, growth, the net effect is huge, right? 1, I'm lowering my costs, but 2, I'm also driving towards increased growth on the top line for my business and a stronger net promoter score with my end customer, which is awesome too. So that's one of the key drivers I've seen over the last several years. Second is around collaboration, right? With platforms, when they first started, it was, where's my truck? But now it's changed a lot, right? So if your assumption that real-time transportation platforms are solely about where my goods are, I think you'll be surprised, because the amount of in-app collaboration between yourself, your transport companies, your 3PL, your end customer, your raw material supplier is there, right? So I can automatically notify my end customer when my truck is going to be an hour late or an hour early with the exact SKUs and product on that truck, right? So that level of collaboration is real. And we're starting to see that extend into other products too, right? So we see backhauling initiatives where historically I've got a lane from Chicago to Atlanta that I'm running with my private fleet, but I'm running my private fleet back empty, right? So there's 500 miles that's just wasted space. And so if I can do collaboration within my own real-time platform, not only am I helping my own fleet out, but I'm also helping out my customer or my vendor with that asset. And then the last one is really around time and speed, right? So that agility factor. And so I gave the example of, the customer calls and says, where are my goods? And it just takes time, right? And if it takes 2 hours to solve a problem in this day and age, where as a consumer, I can look on my mobile app here and see that, all right, my Uber is 2 minutes away. Why can't I do that in transportation, right? And the answer is you can. And that's where real-time platforms really get to a place where you get this instantaneous answer as to what's going on, what the ETA is, and what the impact is. And not only is it just for your users, it's the extended supply chain users as well. So your end customer can see it directly in the platform. They can receive notifications. Your warehouse operator, your carriers are all contributing to that same transaction for one version of the truth. And we're seeing things extend down into like the direct store delivery and merchandiser play as well, right? So if I have a DSD program where it's a 6-stop shipment, how do I plan labor not just with my truck driver and the receiver, but also the merchandiser that's working, at the shelf level, right? And these are things that we're doing today with our customer base, which is awesome. So, Chris, love to hear your thoughts on specific examples, right? Day to day, what our customers saying as to why these platforms are really changing the way we work.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. And that's great background. I think the theme there that I heard is all around how do you operationalize visibility, right? And when I think of examples in terms of how I've seen customers operationalize visibility, one of the examples that comes to mind with a current F&B customer of mine is they're using FourKites to automate a lot of the workflows on how they identify, prioritize PO exceptions. So they have a list that's evaluated daily for high priority POs, right, that are going to their end customers. And before making an investment in FourKites, they were managing this very manually, right, sifting through spreadsheets, looking at different data sources within ERP, looking at shared drives with carriers to figure out the status and location of those shipments, and then ultimately relying on external sources of what the ETA was that was going to be delivered, when that order was going to be delivered into their distribution facility or in turn to their customers. So how they've operationalized visibility is using the capabilities in FourKites to automate problem detection, right? So they built in business rules to automate when an ETA, as an example, is going to fall outside of a certain delivery window. And what they're doing is, because of earlier awareness to those exceptions, given that they're automating it through a business rules engine, that gives them time. And what they're doing with that time, right? Always a key question I have for customers is, if you find out earlier, what do you do with that excess time, right? How do you solve that problem? And what they're doing is they have a team called the replan team. And that replan team works to find excess supply or alternate supply, where when they do have POs that aren't going to be delivered into the distribution facility on time, and in turn sales orders that aren't going to be able to be satisfied, how do they work to find alternate or excess supply to satisfy those orders, so they don't have to reschedule, they don't have canceled orders, and they ultimately can improve on-time and full delivery and customer experience, which has really been the value they've seen for making an investment in a real-time visibility platform with FourKites. So just some examples there. But this was
Awesome.
great, Glenn. Really appreciate the conversation and look forward to continuing this in the future.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.